Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Tom Elsasser. We'll be discussing his fantastic book, Spy in the Sky, a Cold War story of espionage, romance, and intrigue. Available for purchase through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. But if you guys want to get everything that Tom has to offer, do yourself a favor and head directly to his site, TomElsasserAuthor.com. There, not only will you find more information on him, you'll find more information on this fantastic narrative, Spy in the Sky, as well as find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing page. So one more time, that's TomElsasserAuthor.com. And guys, I'll say, Tom was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business. Author Reputation Press Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, do yourself a favor and contact ARP. And you can find out more information on them at authorreputationpress.com. So without further ado, Tom, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you so much for being a guest. How are you?
I'm doing great, Benji. Thank you.
Absolutely. Listen, it's a pleasure having you as a guest on our network, and I know we have so much information to cover, Tom. But before we go into the book, let's hold off slightly. Start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
Sure. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, where I still reside. I'm a graduate of the United States Naval Academy in 1964. I was selected to be part of the Navy, the Nuclear Navy program, and I was on active duty for almost 11 years as a submarine officer during the Cold War. The book is based on some of my experiences during the time I was on active duty.
Well, Tom, first and foremost, thank you very much for your service and all that you have done defending our country and our freedom and liberties. So thank you so much for that. Now, without further ado, Spy in the Sky. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
Sure. It starts with a budding romance between a naval officer and a Pan Am stewardess. They were called stewardesses back in those days. It takes place around 1972, 73. They meet on a flight. He's coming off an inspection in Scotland, and they meet on a flight, and they have a little bit of a romance that starts. What happens is the gal, who is Natalie, Max, who is the naval officer, they decide to have a party at one of the New York discotheques that were popular at the time called Hippopotamus. And one of Max's buddies came and dated one of the roommates of Natalie. Well, unbeknownst to anybody, Mia was a spy. She was an East German working for the Soviets. So the story basically starts from there. The involvement of Mia trying to get Peter involved as a spy working for the Soviets. So the story takes off from there. The background is mostly in New York City, as I said, in the 1972-73 time frame.
Tom, let's go into inspiration. Now, of course, given your Navy background, we know that has influenced your journey, has influenced your narrative. Now, I'm curious, from a writing standpoint, was that something you always wanted to do? Did you always want to write, or what inspired you to embark upon a creative journey and write this book?
I always wanted to write a book. It was on my bucket list, and I had retired from working for the city of Philadelphia, and I was looking for something to do. And I had always wanted to write about something having to do with nuclear technology, something having to do with spying. And it just so happens that the convicted spy, John Walker, did work for me before he got turned on one of the ships, the USS Simon Boulevard. So I figured that maybe I could get all these things together and create a pretty reasonable story about efforts of the Russians to infiltrate the Navy nuclear power program. And certainly Tom Clancy would have been an influence because he was, as most of you know, a very successful writer about things Navy and Navy nuclear. Mm-hmm. So pulling all those things together, this gave birth to Spy in the Sky.
So we know about Tom Clancy. Any other artists that helped inspire you along your journey?
Yeah, I particularly also like Nelson DeMille and Daniel Silva. They write far better than I could ever write. But their plot, character development, the kinds of things the characters get involved with, a little bit of romance, a little bit of fine dining, all of that rolled into one. And so their method of storytelling certainly influenced me when I was writing Spy in the Sky.
Again, here in the line with Tom Elsasser. We'll be discussing his fantastic book, Spy in the Sky, available for purchase through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, or directly through his personal site, TomElsasserAuthor.com. You know, Tom, next question that I'd love to go into, talk to us about some of the research that you did. Now, clearly, again, it's a fictional narrative, but even fictional narratives have research that, you know, the authors do a lot of times to really make sure that the setting is correct, certain nuances are specifically accurate. Now, of course, this is also something that you're pulling from your background and your experience with as well. Talk to us about some of the research that you did in addition to your own experience.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question because without the help of Terry Hanna, who is a former Pan Am stewardess, this book would not have been possible. I decided that I needed absolute 100% credibility with regard to Pan Am operations and the way they, catered to the various flying public back in those days. So the story involved a lot of research with Terry's help to articulate the way Pan Am operated, the flights that they had, the cities they went to, and things of that nature, so that the relationship between the stewardesses and the Navy officers was absolutely factual with regard to the way things really were back in 1972 and 73. In addition to that, I took a look at the other things that were going on in the world at the time. Certainly, John Walker having had meetings that were contemporaneous with the Russians at this time, unrelated to my book, but I fictionalized that he was used as a conduit to provide certain information that would be of advantage to the Soviets. I also had to explore who was running the Soviet espionage network during those days, what the status was in New York City. There was a journey across Eastern Europe. I had to make sure that the cities that were involved were accurate. The places that these people lived in were accurate. So there was a lot of research with regard to making sure that every fact in in the book was absolutely accurate with the way things were in the world back in 1972.
Curiosity for myself, Tom. What would you say was a highlight for you in writing this book? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't expecting prior to embarking upon the journey?
I guess the highlight was that basically that one thing that I did reconnect with Terry Hanna, and the fact that she remembered as much as she did about what was going on back in the early 70s. And the fact that I could get it all together and make it work and make the plot absolutely plausible, and the fact that I was able to weave in enough romance in addition to the intrigue and the spying, that the whole story kind of came together very nicely. It was certainly a lot better at the end than I thought it was going to be when I started.
Wonderful. Tom, as we start to close out of this book, we've covered so much information already. Is there anything else that we haven't yet touched up on that you really want to make sure our listening audience is aware of?
This is a book for everybody. It appeals to women because of the romance. Historians, people that are interested in a snapshot of the Cold War, which is even still going on today, as we saw in the news last week. There was people still trying to sell Navy nuclear secrets. So it's a book for everybody. And my friends have told me, and of course your friends are your friends, but it's a page turner. It's an easy read. It will take you back into a place and time, pre-technology, where communication was nowhere near as efficient or easy as it was today. And these were some of the difficulties that were confronting the characters, and it kind of sets you in what the world was really like in the early 70s with regard to communication.
Tom, as we close out, final question here. Being an artist myself, I love having this platform to be able to pay it forward, in a sense, to other artists out there listening in. Now, I'm in a different medium, of course. I'm an actor and a filmmaker based here in Los Angeles. But we often have authors on our network, and we also have a lot of listeners that are writers as well. Now, really to offer words of wisdom to them. Tom, you are someone that has been through the process. As you stated, you've always wanted to write a book, and you've accomplished that. You have put out this book, Spy in the Sky, and you've been through the process of not only writing the book, but also getting it published, which anyone that has been through the process understands that writing the book is only half the battle. Getting it put out and getting it published is an entire different endeavor in and of itself. Tom, I'd love to take this opportunity. Any words of wisdom, any knowledge that you can impart on our listening audience, any new writer that's out there listening in, what can you tell them? What can you offer them?
If you have an idea, run with it. Don't be shy. Let your creative juices flow. Start writing. Start banging on those keys and write an outline, or start writing the setup of the first chapter or the first paragraph. You have to take that first step, and don't be shy and think, well, my story's not very good. It won't appeal to anybody. Lots of things appeal to a lot of different people. And if you have a story to tell and you think it's a good story and it's interesting, get started. Do it. Take that first step. It's a very, very rewarding experience.
Fantastic. Great words of wisdom there, guys. Listen, trust yourself. I mean, there's always going to be fear with a lot of things. I mean, it's part of the game. But at the end of the day, taking that leap of faith and trusting yourself is always going to lead you in the right direction. I absolutely love that. Guys, listen, you know what is amazing about all of this is we have now come to the end of the interview. We've discussed so much, but yet we've barely scratched the surface. There's still so much left to be discovered, and that's why the onus is on you now. There's no getting around it. Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, TomElsasserAuthor.com are the places you have to go. Spy in the Sky is the title you have to pick up, and Tom Elsasser is the author you have to thank for bringing it to your table. You surely will not be disappointed. Embarking upon a wonderful journey that will really help you get away from your day-to-day lives and just get lost is something I know I need. And I'm sure you can relate as well. Tom, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you for having me.